voila. How cool is this? The band's all here. Super excited. So I'll just say thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Um, we're going to do just a couple of things. I have two or three very simple objectives. One is, we've been talking about it started with, hey, Open EXO is great, SMB work is, let's do something with the SMBs. And, Fabian over here was my coach, teacher when I went through the consulting certification process. And we literally started from there and we moved up the chain because there's a huge need, right, to help companies that are, and then Salim said, 0 to 100 million, they need help scaling. So what I've done is taken the leadership over the last 90 days to really think about how do we serve that client base, 0 to 100, some revenue, $1. We're not an incubator, right? So once they're in revenue, once they've launched, how do we then take them to the next level, help them scale, leveraging this technology? And everybody on this call are my closest friends in the space. A bunch of people recognize each other as from the Open EXO community, if you would. We've talked and I've respected our conversations, so I've asked you to come here and join us. And the other folks are folks that I have built relationships over time that we've collaborated with on other projects and deals in my consulting practice that I've had for 20 years. And because what I've done is now we've launched the Exponential Growth Accelerator on the edge, because that's part of the Open EXO strategy, right? Let's just do it. Let's prove it works. We'll do it under the D'Souza group. And at some point, if it makes sense, we can bring it back in. But I don't want to ever not be in sync with the openexo.com community because it's powerful, all the way from people like you to the investor community within it and everything else. We did have one presentation yesterday, our first presentation with the digital twin technology company out of Peoria, Illinois. We presented this exact thing we're going to show you today. We had configured it for them, so it was relevant. They're about 80 plus employees, been in business for 20, 30, I think since 2012 or 11, but 15 years actually, even before that, they were doing work in this new configuration. They absolutely loved what we were doing, to the point now they actually want to embed this approach in their offering. So it morphed, we had to pivot, but I'll get into that a little later. So what we'll do is before we launch and Fabian gives us a demo, just a presentation, could we just go down the room so we can locate each other? And Fabian, you can get a sense of who's in the room as well. That was your text to me a few minutes ago. Thanks for joining us. And Fabian, introduce yourself and rock and roll.
Yeah, I think I have a slide for my presentation, so I will wait to that. But super excited to have you all here. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the support. And we're super excited to just share the ExO-GA, the Exponential Growth Accelerator, to you. This is the first time we share this with a bigger group. And it's super interesting because we're going to share what is the approach we're taking with this. And of course, I'm going to do a little introduction about the EXO model for those of you who are not familiar. But basically, our ExO-GA is a 90-day program to transform the business. Before going deep into this, Paul, do you want to cover the 3 key elements of our program?
Sure. So, the focus is, revenue is the driver of the business, right? So we lead with that. Now, will there be other areas, which is why all of you are here? Absolutely. But this is the land and expand. This is the Trojan horse. Who doesn't want to increase revenue? We're going to start with that conversation. And then we're going to say, hey, do you want fries with that? And then really help grow the entire company. The next question then is, for the sake of what? Which is why Rakesh and Brian are here. Hey, guys, let's increase valuation of the business. Because what I want to do is ultimately put a fund together. I want to create companies, help companies scale increase valuation, help them exit, bring in investment, and then ultimately build our own fund. So I asked that question right off the bat. And then the last thing is our brand promise is my why, my MTP. I care that people live in joy. You guys see my happy face. You all know Paulie's a happy guy, right? And so we lean into that and ask and say, hey, we'll do this. And oh, by the way, we'll help link this the business strategy to the whispers of your heart. We've already presented this yesterday, and it totally resonated because they anchored in, yeah, we do things differently, and you'll hear that in every organization you work with. So we've actually created a linguistics and a practice around framing it upfront and allowing the space for the client to say, this is how we want to do it, this is how we want to live our life, this is how we want to grow our company. And yesterday is when we presented this to tadanow.com, they're actually going to collaborate on how we move this thing forward because of that one statement. But anyway, that's on this slide.
Absolutely. And just adding to that third statement, tapping into joy, it's one of the main reasons I partnered up with Paul. We believe every business has a purpose, and the business is a vehicle for joy and for fulfillment. So we're going to be focusing not just on the technical part, not just on the EXO methodology, but making sure that the way we do things is connected to that heart, connected to that soul of the company. Do you want to go over your profile, Paul?
No, everybody knows me here. You guys have been in the game for 20 plus years, worked with the big guys, and now focusing on the small guys. But I started my career, selling as a lot of IT solutions, data warehousing, AIG, Delta. I lived in Jersey and did the whole New York City, large, the whole tri-state, large pharma, large fintech. I mean, financial services, biotech, did a lot of big enterprise sales, and then realized I just was unemployable and didn't enjoy taking orders. So I've been a consultant for 20 years and focused on the startup space. Go ahead.
And I think it's important to mention here that this program is also using Paul's superpowers regarding increasing valuation of the company. So this is one of the elements that you might not see in other programs, and I find really valuable, and I'm super excited about that.
Yeah.
So about me, my name is Fabian. I am from León, Mexico, in Guanajuato. My background is in electronics engineering. I had a lot of experience there. I started working at GE Aviation, doing some software for jet engines. And after that, I started consulting. So I had the opportunity to travel a little bit in Latin America and the US, doing consulting for transportation, healthcare, and aviation, which was very fun. And after that, I came back to Mexico, started my own consulting firm, and then I got to know the EXO methodology. And since then, I have started to focus a little bit more in consulting in the innovation space. Helping clients coming up with the next big idea, helping them create their dreams within their business, but also making sure that the human side of business is always there. So I focused a lot on purpose, on making sure that everything's working from the methodology perspective, from that structure, but also taking care of the human part. You can see a couple of...
Now, before you move on, guys, the reason Fabian and I came together is because, I stay at the 50,000 foot level on a good day, right? I don't see details. and we've come in, but, like yesterday when we presented, it became very clear that, very, tech heavy engineering guys, twin technology, digital twin technology, very detailed. They was talking, experimentation and linguistic terms like that. And Fabian is a master of that. He's been consulting, be the consultant, the practice manager, for lack of a better word. And as we scale, as we need people, he's going to run all the engagements, and I'm going to just make sure that we fill in the pipeline, we stay true to the promise, the brand promise. We make sure we move the revenue needle, and I'll orchestrate the projects that way. But the role he's going to take in the accelerator is to be the senior practice manager. Call it what you want. But as we scale, he'll be managing that scaling process for everybody else on the call as well. So.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Paul. Thank you, Paul. Yeah, and I just wanted to mention as well that I've been the one of the main EXO trainers for the consultant certification for a couple of years now. So I've trained a lot of people in the methodology.
Yeah.
I've helped a lot of companies from small to bigger companies doing this kind of work. And I just want to share a little bit about what is EXO. You've heard of this throughout this presentation. And when we say EXO, we're referring to an exponential organization. And this all started, I don't know if you're familiar with Moore's Law, which basically says that every year, every 2 years, the capacity of computing is just being doubled. So every 1 or 2 years, double, and it creates this exponential curve. When Salim Ismail, the author of this methodology, of this book, started to work on this, he asked the question, could businesses also scale like technology? Could they scale exponentially? And he started to find some examples out there, like Facebook, Uber, Airbnb. And he found out that there were some key characteristics, some key elements that these companies were doing. And now this methodology basically teaches us how to bring these elements to any kind of scenario in business. So if we actually implement these attributes, which are 11, we can achieve this exponential growth. So what we're presenting here is leveraging the EXO methodology to not just create a solution for the company, not just think about growing linearly or in a traditional way, but using these attributes to actually achieve that scale. You can see in your screen right now a very short definition of those EXOs, which is basically a company that's 10xing the performance of their competitors. So it's super exciting, and now we're bringing this into smaller and medium companies. This is like this graph, you may already know it, is the 11 attributes. On the top, we have the MTP, the massive transformative purpose. Every company should have a purpose. This is the one attribute that should be present in every company. The other 10, you could have a combination of those, like a tailored suit, depending on which industry you're playing, what's the strategy, how are the founders creating the strategy for the company. You can play with the other 10, but the one that has to be there is the MTP, the massive transformative purpose.
In non-open EXO linguistics, you would call it the company's mission, right? So Google's is organizing the world's information, for lack of a better word, right? Mine is helping people find joy. It should be large enough where it is sort of never ending, right? It's a direction as opposed to a specific goal.
Yeah, and these attributes are divided into internal attributes. If you see the left side of the little brain here, it forms the word ideas, and we have the external attributes which form the word scale. I just want to share a very interesting story from a startup I was working with. And this methodology not only shows us how to be like Uber or Airbnb, but also changes perspectives, changes mindsets around abundance and how we're actually doing business. There were a couple of people from Latin America. They had this little startup. What they did was they bought crashed cars in a bad state. They fixed them and they resell them after that. So they were growing, and at some point they were kind of frustrated because they only had capital to buy two cars at the same time. So we're going through their business model using the attributes, and I asked them, well, your bottleneck, your limitation right now is the capital you're using, right? Your capital. What if that money shouldn't have to be your money? What if we open this up and you create something like a crowdsourcing model where people could invest, they get bigger returns like from what they get from the bank. And if you start to create this community, you could even get them a better price if they want to buy the cars. So opening up that mindset of abundance, making sure that we're using the abundance that we could tap in with technology, just completely changed the way they were operating. And it was super exciting how smaller businesses can just explode by making these changes in mindset. Of course, in what we're doing, this ExO-GA program is leveraging the Open EXO community, which is right now more than 36,000 members there. So we have a big army of consultants, just trainers, advisors, specialists from all over the world. So we're sure that whatever challenge we have in front of us, we can partner up with them, and we can come up with any solution. And now let's go into the interesting part here, which is the ExO-GA program. In this slide, you can see like a top level view of the program. It's 90 days, and imagine if we're presenting this to a client, this is basically the flow that it will follow. The phase 0 is just the preparation phase, just making sure all the resources, everyone is ready to start. And we have then phase 1. The logic behind this program is basically the logic for any innovation methodology following up this structure, this logic of just ideate, testing, iterate. So the first phase is diagnostic and exploration. We're going to make sure that using our own assessment, of course, using also the ExO methodology, we'll get the picture of how the business is currently doing. We're going to make sure we understand where you are, and we'll also make sure that we identify what the outcomes are for this specific company. We can work with companies with specific problems, or if they just want to grow. Let's find out what are the biggest drivers. Let's find out what are the most important metrics we're going to be following. And I'll go a little bit deeper about this diagnostic, but the first phase is basically understanding where the client is at the moment. Then on phase 2, we'll use that information for basically redesign what's not working and experiment. We're going to be developing a series of experiments, making an experimentation plan to make sure whatever came up from phase 1, we also have some ideation on how to fix the biggest bottlenecks. So with that, we're going to run an experiment, we're going to get data, and with the data, we're going to decide which of the experiments, which of the different ways to solve this is best for us. And at the end, of course, we're going to make sure that whatever we tested, it's implemented, and we're going to focus on scaling. And if the client desires this, we could also go for the valuation strategy for increasing valuation or making sure they have an exercise of valuation at the end. Do you want to add something to this, Paul?
No, keep going. This is very good. Appreciate it. Because we're going to open up. He's going to explain each one of these stages. There's a separate slide for each. Go ahead.
This is like the high-level view, and each phase is 30 days. So basically a month in each one of these phases. So let's dive deep into the first one, which is diagnostic and exploration. You can take a look here, and it's basically understanding what's going on, right? So we start with an ExO week session, making sure not just the founders or the leaders of the company, but also the whole company gets a sense of the ExO model, and they start changing this mindset. So this is super important for starting the work that we're going to be doing. Then we do an initial assessment, and we apply our own survey, which is called the ExO-GA survey, which will not only measure against the ExO attributes, but also about the bottlenecks in the business, and we'll start measuring about the valuation and how they want to grow. After that, we'll find the transformation focus. For every business, for every owner, it's different. So we'll make sure we have that from the very first interactions. And we'll start with an exercise of business modeling and revenue model mapping. Super important to find out where the limitations are, where the pivots could be. And we accompany this with a 24-month transaction review and client analysis. This is where Paul's superpowers come into play to find out what trends, what things are being left on the table, and we could get a sense of how the business is actually working rather than just listening to a couple of people within the company.
Yeah, on that note, what he's referring to is that for 20 years I've been a sales strategy consultant, a Fractal CRO, and a lot of my approach has always been data driven. In fact, one of the first meetings I have with a client when I take them on is to meet with the CFO, the controller, and say, hey, give me the last 24 months data on every transaction the company's had. Then you slice it, dice it, and that's where you figure out where their brand is. You figure out where the gaps are. What are the closing ratios? what are the conversion ratios, how long do they keep a client, what's the attrition rate, and all those other details. Because unless you know where they're coming from, it's very difficult to scale them, right? Because you don't want the system to break along the way as you drop in more, hypothetically, more deals. But if they're closing only 5%, or they're closing deals where they're losing money, so a lot of the, so what you'll see here is a healthy blend between my 20 plus years experience and the Open EXO framework. It's not just the Open EXO framework.
Absolutely. So these activities that I just mentioned were focused on understanding where the business is. And at the end of this phase, we're going to run an exponential growth workshop, which is basically designed to start to get the ball rolling, right? So if the company doesn't have a purpose, we'll have a purpose the same phase. We'll make sure that whatever strategy we're creating is linked to that personal joy, and also understanding what the key metrics will be for them. And at the end of this workshop, we'll create a space for brainstorming or having initial sketches for the solution of the main bottlenecks, the main pain points. So phase one, it's about exploring, understanding what's going on with the business, and get a clear outcome of where we could be moving for the next phase. 4 weeks for phase one, and usually we work this with the leadership team, and then we start opening up for the rest of the company. Phase two, redesign and experimentation. We have the inputs from the previous phase. Basically, what we do now is what we call the business model crafting. After getting that data, we'll use the EXO attributes as well to coming up with something a lot more powerful. And from that, we're going to be testing the main hypothesis and just using the experimentation methodologies to get there. In here, we have an experimentation expert doing the following. For the companies that don't have this attribute well defined, the experimentation attribute, we're going to teach them how to do lean startup methodologies. We're going to come up with an experimentation plan. Of course, defining the measurement framework and creating a dashboard. So we're tackling a lot of attributes just doing this. And at the end, of course, we're going to collect all the data, find the trends, including the feedback from the clients. And from there, we're going to make sure that we decide on the most promising ideas. In this point, it's super important to mention that this is not just the leadership team working on this. We're going to go with broader team representation. And in here, we encourage especially the customer-facing roles to participate in this phase. So we have first-hand information of how we're dealing with this, and having them own these experiments and own these changes in processes that are going to be implemented later. In here as well, we have included a disruption session. From those outside the EXO community, the disruption session is basically bringing some expert from outside, giving us feedback on the experiments, on the results we got. And so when we pivot, we know that we're making the best decision. At the end of this, we're going to decide on each one of these experiments or these options, which of them we're going to proceed, which of them we're going to pivot, or which of them are going to be archived. 4 weeks for this. This is the most intensive part of the program, and just basically following up with what we have on phase one. And then in phase three is basically making sure that whatever we decided on, it's being implemented within the company. And we move the focus with these changes, with this evolution of the business model, to making sure that we have that valuation strategy, that those valuation numbers also present. So we will build the scaling roadmap, making sure we have resource allocation, the alignment between sales and marketing, which is one of the main issues that comes up when we change the way we're just approaching clients. We'll make sure that that's aligned, and we define the KPIs for growth. From here on, we're going to be measuring a little bit different from before. We'll make sure we tap into operationalizing the change if needed. With some companies, if the changes that we're doing are too complicated, we use swarms for that restructuring, and we'll use our change management tools and communication tools to make sure that the changes are well implemented and well received by the company. Paul, do you want to cover the next one?
Yeah, and again, we'll always qualify, right, the degree of engagement or the focus of the engagement to whether the client wants to scale. I'm going to move companies, or really, you have to treat companies differently if they say, hey, I just want to increase revenue, or I want to increase revenue and business valuation because one, I want to create a legacy that's stable for my kids and grandkids, and or I want to sell the business, right? And go, well, like one of my clients right now, he wants to go be an inventor, as an example. So we are always going to ask that question, and this is where it starts becoming important because how we help a company scale is going to be based on, do they want to increase valuation? What are their timelines for growth? Because that curve, you want to increase valuation faster. We can go raise money. We can do capital raise for growth and expansion, if you would. And because now we've done the work and we know, right, what is the process, what are the steps, we've done the sprints, and we know exactly what's the best way to scale the company. But again, we're going to move people towards increasing valuations and hopefully doing M&A deals because that's what we do. It's the accelerator. So I want to create a space to do that. Ask that question.
Thank you, Paul. And then at the end, we have the graduation, just making sure that we're measuring everything from face to face, having that progress evaluation. And of course, there's a final results presentation at the end of the program. And then we evaluate how we move forward with the client. Something that's very important as well is that during this 90-day program, it usually focuses on their biggest bottleneck or limitation within the company. After these 90 days, our promise is to give them all the resources, all the tools for them to actually execute on this. So after the 90 days, we can move on with a different bottleneck, with a different challenge within the company. But our main goal, of course, is to stay with them or repeat this process in different areas for the company. In this deck, you can also find how these 3 phases look like in time. It's basically 3 months. In each week, we're going through the different activities. And Paul, why don't you talk about additional outcomes of the program?
Yeah, so people want to know, and it came up again yesterday. What are we in a sense going to get? So the promise is really there's 3 levels or 3 options in the outcomes. One is for sure they're going to have the ability to run with what we've developed, right? So they'll know what resources they have to reallocate, where they might need training, how to improve their sales process, and they will be able to scale the company with the resources they currently have. The next level could be, hey, we can do it ourselves, but we might need we need investment, or we'll need help with the D'Souza group. I might step in as a fractal a CRO, or be their coach, if you would. They might have more internal processes that they want to run, and Fabian might, or somebody else might need to come in. One of you might need to come in. They might identify where they need the help and extra help. And then the third thing is they might say, hey, this is fantastic, and this is what happened yesterday. We presented this and they said, oh my gosh, this is amazing. We actually want to go straight to and build a deeper relationship with OpenEX or the company itself, figure out how we can use this methodology that we presented in their offer. They already want to do a JV of some sort, simply because we've got such a larger organization, 36 plus thousand people, 152 countries. But my point is, we're very structured that at the end of the 90 days, it's a crossroad to what's possible. We want to help the company scale, but we give them the options. It's very actionable, but obviously leaning towards more the second and third option, because why would they not want to scale with us as we move forward? And that's it. Thank you, Fabian. I really appreciate it. Does anybody have yeah, Hooper, you got to go. Appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by, staying with us. Do you have any parting
run
words?
in a minute. I do have a few comments. So this is an excellent work, to get this started. Kudos to both of you guys. I believe Paul and Fabian, we I would like to have a conversation with you guys because I believe that there is a piece that is not considered here. Okay. And is that these organizations, these smaller organizations, are still in the storming phase, like storming, forming, transforming. And we are basically coming to them with the only hammer that we know, which is the ExO. Okay. And that may not be the answer, okay, to some of their immediate needs. I think that we need to get them to the point. That doesn't mean that you cannot get EXO, from the very beginning. What we need to get them to the point where they can apply those things effectively and make them stick. If not, they're going to go the same way as everything that they have done before. So I have some ideas around that. And I think the second thing that I'm going to say is that there is room here in the conversations that we have had to think even bigger, okay? And it's this approach is great to get us started and to learn, which is I think it's the first phase, and it's very useful, right? But I think there are ways to rely more on the community, right? It's just a note, right? But excellent work to get this started. Thank you, and thank you for bringing everybody together. Right?
Yeah, no,
I'll shut up
appreciate
now.
it. This is really, you're right. I mean, we have to start on the fringe. This is not an open EXO focused offering, but we are leaning on the methodology and the community. But we had to start somewhere because we were not allowed to start on the inside. So we're starting on the outside. And this call is about reaching out for help, being very, very, very transparent. So I appreciate that insight and feedback from you. And the invitation is to participate, to lean in and to help, right? One thing we've realized is that there aren't many opportunities coming to us as consultants from the community. So I want to flip this around. I want to say, no, like what I'm doing, I leaned in and brought my clients to the community, right? I believe that I have a better potential and a higher capacity to act through the community. It was proven yesterday. Guys, I was talking to a client, it was my fifth call with them. They always kick the can down the road. Let's have another meeting. Let's have another meeting. But we presented with Fabian this bigger solution. And they were like, oh my gosh, this is great. Let's meet on Monday. And I said, fine. Right? He says, now we got to do a Joy We. And I said, let's collaborate. You make me an offer. You want it? It's called the opt-in close, right? You make me an offer on how you want to participate with us. And he said, yes, we'll do it on Monday. Two founders.
Right.
I'm proving to you that my capacity to, my God, bones again, what the hell is this? But I'm proving to you that, or I'm recommending or demonstrating to you that flip the script, guys. I'm talking about us consultants, and I don't have the answer in terms of the rev split and the model. This collectively we'll figure it out. I'm just being transparent. My invitation is you bring your clients to the table. You bring your ideas to the table. You bring your genius to the table, right? And then let's orchestrate.
Yeah,
and let's play
think you
together.
guys
That's
made
the
a great job at one thing, that it's tuning this to the right level for small business, where I have seen both of these things, where it's boring, right? If you just come to them and say you got to make more revenue, that's boring, right? If you come to them with the full EXO enchilada, right? It's like, oh my God, you just freaked the hell out of me, right? I don't know where to start. So you brought it to a point where it's like the right piece, where it's inspiring.
Personalized it. It's about
but
their
it's
story.
Doable, right?
It's about
I think
their
that's
story.
Great.
Yeah. Hey Ben, good to see you, brother. I'm glad you joined us.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry I couldn't make it earlier than this. And glad I caught you before you left, Huba. And maybe this will kind of piggyback on that as well. So as OpenEXO is working on a potential, like with the AI readiness program, and by the way, if you guys, for those that you don't know, I'm part of the community and been running the AI working group and have been in talks with them a lot, the leadership around what comes next. And So what with the AI working group itself, and so they launched the AI Ready program, and then there's also conversations around creating a marketplace. This is my question. From what I'm hearing, it's like you're opening this up to the community for people to be able to contribute to existing clients that need maybe an expertise or something that's maybe beyond, say, what if I have as a person bringing the lead, I can go to the community to bring in maybe Ubas or your expertise in order to deliver on what we see as necessary or possible. Is that about right?
You're asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
Yeah. I mean, all of us, right? I mean, this is for Brian, who you missed introduction, is an M&A guy. Is for Rakesh, who does investment and private equity and all that kind of stuff and accounting. For them to realize we are a tremendous resource, right? If they've got clients that they need help, they can lean in on us. And for us to know that, hey, I'm asking all of you to lean in. If you got a client you think that could benefit from this structured program as an entry point, you come involved, you take the lion's share, but we put them to the program, and we might scale them and give them back to Brian and Rakesh, right? The financial guys. If we need ops folks, we got Chris. These are folks that are not part of the Open EXO. I want to expand the pond. This is not just Open EXO, and I'm inviting all of you to do the same. At some point, when they finish with AI and stuff for that, the Open EXO community, and they see success, it's part of their model, right? I respect their model. Start the fringe, show success, and then bring it inside. Then it may be valuable. I don't want to stay in the fringe because the power of the Open EXO community is absolutely phenomenal. Then you throw the Genius Group on top of that with 5 million users, right? It'll be even more potential, even more powerful. What I do want, and this is my request for help and my invitation from all of you on the call here, is let's collaborate around serving, because we all have the same client. Every one of us have the same client here. Is somebody in revenue below $100 million? Make sense, Ben? Did I answer that?
Yeah, it does. And just perhaps for more clarity, that the marketplace potentially is kind of, if you have something that needs to be built and somebody within the community can build it, it's basically making that connection, which is what I think you're doing here around the.
Yeah, and I don't have the resources to build a platform and stuff. I'm just going to do it the old-fashioned way, man.
Yeah, which you
Right?
don't necessarily need. It's just basically if everybody in the community, this community, knows who else is at the table, they say, you know what,
Exactly.
I'm going to bring in Angela for this piece. I'll bring in Becky for this piece.
We'll do it. Yeah, we'll do it the old-fashioned way. That's why every Friday, 10 o'clock is my time. Mountain, noon, Eastern is, I think, a good time. I hope it works, everybody. Let's do that until we need to shift it. But let's collaborate. This is, it's all about collaboration. That's the key word here. But I'm bringing I just created the structure for it, and that's about it. It's a starting point. I mean, open to change.